Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the next episode of my project where I am watching every movie featured in Brian Raftery's book, Best Movie Year Ever, all about movies released in 1999. We're still in the high school film chapter of the book. So, this week's episode is Cruel Intentions. Watched this a couple nights ago. I had heard about it. I have actually never fully watched the movie. I was familiar with the concept of it and like the basic plot line of the movie, but I never actually had seen the movie. So I went ahead and watched it. From what I remember reading, it's based on a French book from 1782. I think it's Les Lions Dangereux by I think it's Pierre Chatelos de Laclos. I'm probably going to mispronounce that. I probably already did. Anyway, a 1782 novel. It's been adapted multiple times into films. I think probably the most noteworthy one, or the one that I had at least heard of, prior to this was Dangerous Liaisons. I've never actually seen that either, but I knew of it as soon as I kind of was watching the credits to Cruel Intentions. It displays that right up front and say based on this novel by this author. So stars Sarah Michelle Gellar, I think I'm going to hopefully pronounce this correctly, Ryan Philippe, and Reese Witherspoon among others. Remember reading in Brian Raftery's book that Sarah Michelle Gellar was kind of urged not to take this movie because I think up to this point she was basically known for Buffy, kind of like a wholesome character, and this is a complete opposite, kind of a much darker character for her to play. People were worried it was going to like ruin her reputation and all that kind of stuff. Very similar to how a year earlier Nev Campbell was in Wild Things, and up to that point was playing kind of like these good characters in like Party of Five and like Scream. Even though Scream's a horror movie, she's like the heroine of that movie, and is not like a bad person. In Wild Things, she is. I think she ends up getting kind of out of everybody in that movie. I think she like spoilers for Wild Things. She ends up basically winning, and I think her win is deserved, even though she uses underhanded tactics and stuff like that to kind of get her way. But in this film, the basic plot is Sebastian, played by Ryan Phillippe, is kind of like a playboy. He's kind of like this. They're all like very very rich, but basically he will basically seduce women, do stuff with them, and then basically expose them and kind of just ruin their lives. Both him and his sister, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, are doing this, and then Reese Witherspoon comes into town, having written an article, I think, in like a teen magazine about, saving herself from marriage and that kind of thing. And then it's a challenge between the brother and stepsister to basically like ruin her life as well by basically having Sebastian seduce her, sleep with her, and then kind of ruin her reputation. And also the fact that she is the daughter of the new headmaster of the school. That's his daughter, is played by Reese Witherspoon. So back to the notes. Back in the beginning of the film, we see Sebastian in a therapy session, and then he leaves that session, and the therapist's daughter calls the mom, the therapist, and basically Sebastian has leaked photos of her like online and that kind of thing. Um, daughter's upset about that. Sebastian, basically, I said that Sebastian and his sister basically ruin lives. There's another character named Cecile who um, Catherine initially takes her under her wing to kind of guide her, even though it's an attempt at revenge because prior to the movie, Catherine's boyfriend had dumped Catherine for this other character named by Cecile, played by Selma Blair. One thing I'll say about the Selma Blair character, I didn't really like that character. I don't know if it was just the character was supposed to be super naive. It feels like she was incredibly naive at the time. I don't know if that was just the way it was played, the way it was written. I kind of didn't care for that character at all. Also, the film, at least the first act and a half, or maybe two acts, felt very slow to me. I don't think the movie really picked up steam until the third act. So it was kind of boring up until the third act of the film. Again, I mentioned the challenge. Catherine goes along with the bet. The bet is basically that Sebastian can basically sleep with Reese Witherspoon, or yeah, Sebastian can sleep with Annette, played by Reese Witherspoon, and if he does that, the stepsister, Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, will have sex with Ryan Phillippe's character, and that's kind of the thing, is that she's the only woman basically that he can't get, and this is a way to get that, and also ruin this Annette's character's life in the process. Annette already knows that Sebastian is not to really be trusted, so it was revealed that somebody had told her about him, and then in another plot for revenge, Sebastian goes to a friend of his who is gay, and the guy who informed Annette of Sebastian's basically past is also gay, but he is I think he's like a football player or something like that. So he's acting like he's not gay, and then Sebastian basically is going to kind of expose him as being gay as a way to get his cooperation and further information from him regarding Annette. Um, let's see, staying there. Annette knows about Sebastian. Cecile and Catherine they kiss in this park. They're she's also Sebastian or not Sebastian. Catherine's friend Cecile is kind of enamored with her music teacher named Ronald. So apparently Ronald has written Cecile these love letters. Catherine asks for copies of the letters, or just for the letters, and then she later uses those letters to kind of expose this relationship to Cecile's mother, who is kind of hiring Ronald out to teach Cecile how to play the cello. Sebastian gets this, gets that. Sebastian and Annette go swimming. There's a scene where she walks in on him while he's changing, which is probably completely staged. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to invite you to go swimming in this pool with me." And then when she walks back out with her bathing suit on, he is changing. He probably timed it, to make it awkward for Annette. The music teacher is being, he's being spied on at some point. I'm not sure if these cello lessons are like recorded and somehow Catherine got a hold of the tapes, because you do see a part where she's watching a tape, so it looks like they're being recorded in some way. I don't know if it's like a hidden camera thing or if they were actually being recorded, so then when Cecile wants to practice, she can just go and watch the tape and practice off of that. Again, then Catherine's mom tells Cecile about the music teacher's letters. Music teacher gets fired for this, and she's also a little bit racist, because I think there's a scene where Catherine is talking to Cecile's mom. She's like, "I can't believe he's so," and then the mom finishes the sentence and says, "Oh yeah, he's so black." So there's a bit of racist tendencies in Cecile's mom. She fires him. He kind of like claims racism. She's like, "We're not racist. We gave money to Colin Powell." So kind of a way to kind of say, "Hey, like I gave money to a black person, so I'm not racist." But yeah, that character basically is racist. Sebastian and Catherine they want to help Ronald, like help like that, because everything they do kind of has ulterior motives and schemes behind it. What's this? He has second thoughts about messing with Cecile, but basically he also then tricks Cecile into basically like having sex with him and stuff like that. Cecile is again tricked by Sebastian. Sebastian and Annette start actually, well, at least Sebastian starts actually falling in love with Annette. That's the basic plot of the movie, is that he is supposed to be kind of taking an interest in her to win this bet with Catherine, and in the process of this bet ends up actually falling in love with this character. Cecile then tells Catherine that Sebastian took advantage of her, and then basically Catherine just tells Cecile just to kind of like sleep with as many people as you can, because it'll make you more prepared for when you do sleep with Ronald, that kind of thing. So they kind of ruin her reputation as well in the process. This is another note in my notebook here, is that Cecile is badly written. I talked about this earlier. I don't know if it was a performance or if it was just how it was written, but she came across as just being incredibly naive the entire time. So I don't really know. I also didn't really care for the performance all that much. Sebastian and Annette actually kiss, and then what's this? Annette actually pushes him away, saying that she doesn't trust herself to be with him, and they almost actually have sex. But then Sebastian tells Catherine that he didn't go through with it, and Annette's left. Then Sebastian actually tracks her down. They actually have sex, and then Ronald, what's this? Oh yeah, Ronald has sex with somebody, or doesn't have sex with, who is it? Ronald has. Oh yeah, I think it's implied that they did, that Ronald and Catherine were doing something, but then also she uses that later to blackmail, not blackmail, but get Sebastian in trouble. He's like, "Hey, Sebastian hit me to Ronald," and that kind of thing. I think I just mistook that note there. Sebastian tells Annette is no longer he's in love with her. Basically, he goes to Sarah Michelle Gellar's like, like, "I wasn't playing this game to beat her. I was doing it to beat you. You're just nothing but a toy to me." And then even when he finishes the bet, actually like does sleep with Annette, she then refuses to sleep with him because she doesn't sleep with losers. So she doesn't really uphold her end of the bet on this as well. Yeah, so Sebastian is just a toy to be played with. Sebastian tries to get through to Annette but can't. He then eventually, I think, drops off his notebook with, I'm not sure if it's Annette's mom, but there's somebody she's staying with, so he gives a notebook to that person. Sebastian, or like, then Catherine says that Ronald, Catherine tells Ronald that Sebastian hit her. Ronald tracks him down as he's trying to also talk to Annette, and a fight ensues. And basically, what happens is Annette gets pushed into the street, and there's like a taxi coming, and Sebastian dives in front of her, pushes her out of the way, and gets hit by this taxi, which kills him. I don't think that would have killed him because it looked like the way he hit didn't really look like it would be fatal. I don't really know. But I didn't particularly care for that scene because I think if they were wanted to kill him, they would have done it in a more convincing way, I guess. So anyway, but he does die from these injuries sustained in saving Annette's life. They actually then have a funeral for Sebastian, and I think the headmaster's giving a speech, and Annette and Catherine meet in the bathroom. They don't really say a whole lot, but then Catherine starts giving a speech about Sebastian, and it's kind of basically like a funeral. So she's giving a speech about him, and suddenly a lot of people just start leaving the funeral home. They go out and they're like, and Catherine's like, "What the hell's going on?" So they go outside, and everybody is handing out copies of Sebastian's notebook that they've been photocopied, and it's basically it explains about Catherine, and it explains about the bet. It basically explains kind of everything that Catherine has like done, and I guess to an extent Sebastian has done as well. So everybody is seeing this, and then one part of the movie I really did like was the use of "Bittersweet Symphony" by, I think it's by the Verve. Is it? Because there's a Verve and there's the Verve Pipe. The Verve Pipe I think is a different band, but "Bittersweet Symphony." Let me actually just type that into here because I think it's the Verve. Bittersweet Symphony, really good use of it. So yeah, it's the Verve. So there was, I think it's around this time, there was a band called the Verve, and then a band called the Verve Pipe, and I think people confuse them all the time. But yeah, so Bittersweet Symphony, it's a really good like song for this particular like scene because the song is a very slow build up. So the song starts playing before people are starting to leave, and then basically you see Cecile handing out these notebooks or these copies of the journal, and that everybody is then kind of seeing what a manipulative person Catherine is in the movie, and then it shows her. One thing is she carries a cross around her neck, but it's actually a disguised cocaine container with a tiny spoon in it. So that's in the notebook, and you see like a school official like grab it off of her and opens it, and basically the whole thing is the people that would ruin people's lives for fun have had their lives ruined. Sebastian, I guess, in the fact that he's dead, and well, to a lesser, he actually kind of turns it around at the end, but it's a little bit too late for him. And then Catherine, who's still alive, having to now deal with the consequences of her actions up to that point. And then in the credits, we see back to the bet. The bet again, if I should have talked about this a little bit earlier, but that bet was that if Sebastian can sleep with Annette, that Sarah would sleep with him, and the thing for her was if Sebastian lost, he would have to give up his vintage Jaguar car to Catherine. And in the beginning of the movie, we see Sebastian driving down the highway in this car towards the city. It takes place in like New York, or New York City specifically. And I think some of it takes place like out of the city as well. But we see him driving like towards the city, and maybe towards, like, I don't know, it's on a highway. And then the final credit scene, we see Annette is now driving the car leaving the city with the actual original notebook still in her possession. So that was Cruel Intentions. I liked the third act of this film. I didn't really particularly care for the first and second. I thought it was a little bit slow. I may have to watch it again because I really like Wild Things. So I'm not sure if Wild Things, if I like that as much initially. I still think I like the story of Wild Things a little bit more just because it is it's overall just, I think, a better story, even though once you see it, you kind of know all the twists and turns. I'm going to definitely have to rewatch Cruel Intentions and see if I like it more the second time, this being the first time I've actually sat down and have watched the complete film. But again, that was Cruel Intentions. Next film up is 10 Things I Hate About You, which is again still in the high school chapter of the film, and also another film based off of previously existing works. So again, Cruel Intentions was based off of basically the French novel Dangerous Liaisons, or Les Liaisons, like, can't pronounce. Les Liaisons Dangereux, and 10 Things I Hate About You is based on The Taming of the Shrew by William Shakespeare. That is on Disney Plus, so Disney Plus is launching just a few days ago. I'll be watching that one there. That's going to do it for this episode. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll be back again next week with 10 Things I Hate About You. Thanks again for watching.